You're not the boss of me. You're not my real dad. I'm live as I want to be.
If you want to talk to yourself, I'm not going to stop you. But
I'm pushing the buttons at the same time. So I'm drinking almond milk because that's what you do.
If only you could have hired someone to help you push buttons.
I know, and I could have had a sponsor by now. Wait a minute, is this? Backpack. I was going to say, I don't remember what I was going to say. How are you?
Super. I'm sure whatever you were going to say was amazing. I really enjoy the backstage bits, like before we actually go live, the conversations that we're having. And then, so David Meerman Scott was like, you guys, it's 9. Are we
going live?
Right.
Guess we will.
Whoops.
Hey, Chloe. So, ever since starting the show, that's sometimes like the pre-conversation to kind of get everybody warm and excited. It's nuts. So we have a fun show today. I like it for 2 reasons. Is that I always like mixing and matching the people. I like that it's, someone that one of the two of the guests every time pretty much. And you also kind of have that sense that there's got to be some reason why we're stuffing this in the backpack today. And one reason bringing Dre Armeda on was that Dre, I met him when he was launching Securia. Well, I met him right before launching Securia, I guess, according to Twitter. And he's gone on to make like a really cool company. That company got acquired. He's now hanging out at GoDaddy, which is a company I use for my hosting my domain purchases. And he's just really busy and big in the tech space. And I thought, let's drag Dre in. And then to grab David Meerman Scott, author of all the books, the New Rules of Marketing and PR, the Apollo 11 book, which is just a beautiful book.
Moon and
Marketing the Moon, right? Fanocracy with his daughter. So man, we have everything to talk to about David. Plus David is a big stage speaker having to deal with the small screen. And so what a better way to handle that. By the way, I should tell you that tomorrow is Chip Griffin's birthday. So Aww. He is joining us today, but tomorrow is birthday. So don't feel
happy birthday, Chip.
Weird if you want to track him down and say happy birthday, because he might not be here tomorrow. He might be busy. Maybe he's at the beach. Who knows? We did warn Dre that we would just put him right on. So there he is. Hey, Dre.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm not telling you, but let me ask you this question first and foremost. We were talking just a little bit about this before, but there's a big difference between running your company and being in a big company. And it's not that you can't do either or both, but boy, it is a different kind of feel, isn't it?
It is vastly different. So I played in the big company space before Security, headed that route into the small technical startup, which pros and cons, right? It's the grind, but certainly very different than being in the large machine, if you will.
The one difference, of course, is that, when you're running the show, you have to worry about every single thing. When you're not running the show, you have to kind of take some orders, and, sometimes your great idea, sometimes they run with your great idea, sometimes they don't. And I guess that's part of the storyline too. What's that been like for you? Because you're quite a leadery kind of leader. So I'm just curious to know how it is sort of playing with the band instead of soloing.
Yeah, my mom always told me that my mouth's either going to make me or break me, right? So certainly the vocal type tried to lead from the front. And, it's different pressure, but still a large potential impact being involved in a large organization like GoDaddy. And it's pretty exciting because of the audience that they're focusing on, everyday entrepreneur, 19 million paying customers today, right? Like that is a huge potential opportunity for me to bring some of my experience into their product portfolio. In a way that's meaningful. So that was kind of exciting, seeing that transition from that small company where we had a fairly large space in the security space, but to become a larger impact across the broader internet is super interesting. So the pressures are different, but there's still an opportunity to lead and to make pretty large impact.
Your title is kind of nebulous, so I don't really know what you work on. It's probably for a good reason, right? Like maybe you do like crazy
projects. As possible. How about that? No, it's probably not Not the right answer. So technical program management. So I've had the opportunity to be part of the partners organization at GoDaddy as we've transitioned into new leadership and organizational structure in the last year under Aman Bhutani, which has been pretty neat to see kind of the new direction of the company and really focusing on becoming a customer first company versus a really product centric environment and offering. We've kind of divided the company into different business units, and the partners organization is where I land today. And my goal is to help people execute on the objectives that we as a company and as a partners organization have structured strategically to drive, right? So whether that's providing an awesome new value to the customer, providing better customer service to the customer, my goal is to drive that portfolio with our teams.
Oh my gosh, you sound like a grown-up now.
Look at that.
I was just thinking that. Like, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I mean, 10 years ago when I'm talking to Chris Brogan about Secure, I'm like, dude, check this out, bro. We're doing this thing. Yeah, things have changed a little bit, man.
A little bit in 10 years.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I'm really bad at kind of linking one point to another point. So here's a 90-degree segue. You now are at home like everybody is, I imagine, and is GoDaddy were they already a very distributed company, and what's the difference in sort of culture at a distance versus culture in the office?
Another leadership opportunity, in fact. So they're probably like a 80% company, 80% in the offices prior to the whole pandemic. I was in a unique situation coming over with the Security acquisition in 2017. We were fully remote. We were 125 employees distributed over 25 countries. We never had a major office. We had a small satellite office here in the Temecula area. So not a big impact in my everyday workflow. However, it's given me the opportunity, along with everybody else that came over with that acquisition, to maybe mentor and work through some of those changes, whether it's the socialization that you get in person, to the workflow differences to those that weren't working remotely before. So it's been pretty cool to collaborate there and kind of see the transition over time of people going, holy cow, I don't get to see anybody. How do I deal with this emotionally? There's no physical interaction. That really changes my mood and my overall state to being productive online at a higher rate. So I love
not seeing people. No.
Yeah.
Everybody else is talking about.
For me, it's been 10, 11 years, right? So anytime I'm at the office, it's a travel trip for me because this is my 99% of the time workspace.
Being in the office, so I've worked remotely for a long time, but there's like 30 solid minutes where I really enjoy it. And then I have to actually get something done. And then people just won't
coffee was great. Got to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. But then they come to you. That's I'll walk with you. I'm going that way anyway. Like, oh, man. So what are you doing to stay fit during the lockdown?
By fit, do you mean fit to continue eating? Because
I mean, like, not fused to your chair.
Yeah, so that's been a challenge. I'm a Carlson Gracie brown belt, and I've been practicing jiu-jitsu for about 7 years, and that has been a huge impact for me along the way, whether that's family, work, just my state of being. So being that has been severely hindered through this pandemic, it's been challenging to get motivated, to be quite frank. We're doing as much as possible as a family to go hiking and doing things outdoors. I have a Peloton, so I've been trying to get on the bike, but realistically, I've spent majority part of my time in the kitchen eating like an idiot.
You make it sound really classy, Peloton.
I really was just thinking the same thing. Carrie Lorenz doesn't say it that way. I can tell you that.
I shop at Target.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I've been eating too much. In fact, so I've got, and that has underlying risks, right? So I got to tone it back.
Yeah. Eating anything is probably too much when you're sitting all day, like not doing anything, barely leaving your house. So
yeah, it was a trip at the beginning of the year. I was competing at a 189, which is like my high school weight, ridiculously, lean. I haven't been there in 25 years. And I've, back over 200 pretty quickly, right? It's one of those things when you're complacent, you are sitting all day, you're not getting the same amount of exercise, and it's just caloric intake. Is
this the part where we compare? Because I'm going to abstain.
No need for comparison. It's I totally get it. It's been tough.
It's not the same actually, but it's like real wiggly compared to what it was in March.
Your weight stayed the same, but just redistributed.
Yeah, exactly.
Dre, I have a question that kind of goes with that in a weird way. It is, from the sitting home kind of feeling of how that goes. And I'm going to ask David this question, I think too, is the question of the difference in kind of using your brain, right? So like using your brain for like crazy work application kind of stuff is different right now as well. There's a whole lot of retention business going on. There's a whole lot of how do we get, people to stay happy. And so as you're working on these partner projects and all that sort of a thing, what scratches Dre's creative itch in these moments versus, just kind of doing the company job you got to do?
It's a trip. So earlier this year, I podcasted for a number of years. Not very great, not very high volume or big audience shows, but did it for a number of years, a couple hundred episodes, and I always had a good time with that. But that stopped probably 3 years ago, and I'd been contemplating maybe starting some type of show or broadcast last year, and sitting at home, it gave me time to go, you know what, let's go ahead and execute against that. So started podcasting again earlier this year. Unfortunately, I ended up with some crazy sinus and allergy thing that's probably related to all the food I've been eating. So I've slowed down the broadcasting over the last month and a half, but in fact, got a show tomorrow. It's called Get a Grip with Dre Armeda. It's Gripper Pod. So the idea is just open forum discussions with random folks from people in the jiu-jitsu community to police officers that have been working in task forces to you name it, just broad topics to openly talk on a weekly basis. So that's been kind of cool. Been toying with the idea of video. So got a new video set up. In fact, that's going up in the office. I'm sound detonating the office and trying to set up a YouTube channel here to maybe do some reviews and other things, because there's maybe some opportunity there creatively and then as a passive income opportunity. So who knows?
You've always been a personality, so I can see it being a slam dunk for you to kind of drag this out into 3 dimensions like that, or 2 3/4 dimensions, or however many dimensions we have.
That's the hope.
That's interesting. Carrie, what else you got?
Oh, I podcast even when I sound bad, so that was interesting. Like my voice will get wrecked, and I think I sound terrible, and then people will be like, "Oh, I like it. I like this new
sounds awesome,
sexy voice." Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I feel like my throat's brutalized, but cool. I'll keep it. So what made you decide to do podcasting now? I know like there was this huge resurgence, but then when we all kind of went on lockdown, everyone was like, video is the thing. So what brought podcasting back to the forefront for you?
Probably my roots, right? So my opportunity to be able to discuss openly topics, how I want to discuss them, is something that I like, right? Video, although I've done video casting in the past, the video piece was probably secondary to me. So it wasn't really initially to restart from a monetary perspective or to grow a huge audience, but just an outlet. A lot of people blog. I was part of the WordPress space and still am in some capacity, but for a long time, blogging is a really impactful way to get your word out and, to talk and to be a voice. Me on audio is really where I am able to comfortably outlet.
Dre, by the way, was part of a team that created the Dradcast back in the day, which, by the way, Dre's back in the day is like, 2016 or 2015 or whatever it was. And, early, a podcaster in 2007, well, my first was 2005, Fat Guy Gets Fit. And then we did PodCamp in 2006. But Dradcast was fun because you'd have everybody. You'd have John Hawkins on. You'd have, you did that show. What was it? Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer. Yeah. So, there was a lot of variety in your show. So
that's
fun. you were on the show. We've had Matt Mullen. We had a bunch of folks on, and it was fun. It was really, really good time.
You had some real guests, and I was there. So that's it's a thing. It's a thing.
What kind of side hustles do you have now, Dre? Like, what are you doing now to keep busy?
Nothing too major. I started a small lifestyle wear, judo lifestyle wear company named Strangle.
I love that you're like, not much, just started like this.
No, I'm not really involved with it much anymore. That was something that we started over the last couple of years, and my buddy Patrick, he's kind of driving that now. I really have swung into this whole podcast, video cast direction as my evening time suck while I'm off the mats. So not too much else really going on at the moment, really concentrating on GoDaddy and that opportunity there to provide some cool services. Pretty stoked. I got a couple side consultant opportunities going on, but nothing too too crazy.
That sounds like quite a lot. So you said nothing, but then you followed up with quite a lot. So
Yeah,
I feel lazy.
The list gets longer the more you think about it, I guess.
I have one other question. When will it be the right time to get righteous with the wax again?
Man, it's, I shaved this in March. It's back. Like, it grows overnight. It's crazy. So I would say we're getting close. I think I might do it just for you now when I have to grow it out.
I like the idea. I like the premise that we had something to do with it. Dre Armeda, we can find you all over the web. You could go to armeda.com, probably is the easiest place to start. You can also jump on your Twitter, which Carrie has right there. And thank you so much for dropping by. If you can stick around, do. If you cannot, don't. But I'm so glad you were here.
Got jujitsu.
Oh, yeah. Great to see you, Chris. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it. It's great to be on. And
everything's fine.
Good.
Chris is going to break some stuff.
All right. Let me see if this works. It did. So, yeah, I mean, like I was saying beforehand, and I should say it, while people are here in front of us again, I don't even know how I just broke this thing, but I just broke my light. Dre saved my life with his other company, Security, because a very large company that I won't name publicly because David commented on that, a very large hosting company, my website was totally taken over and by nice Turkish people who thought I should sell shoes for a living. And Dre and Sophie Lizard was another independent person who helped, said, hey, we got you, don't worry. Meanwhile, this big hosting company that I won't name, rhymes with crack face, totally, you would never guess which one that is. They said, sorry, buddy, like the servers are running, go to hell. And so I took a walk and I went to a new hosting platform and I made a whole bunch of new relationships, and Dre got my site back like less than it was just a handful of hours. In my mind, it was like
he gets stuff done. I love how he's like, oh, I'm not really doing anything. And there's like,
not doing anything.
12 to 15 things he's doing right now.
Moved a few months ago, I have all kinds of people around, crudité platters every night. So
Seriously.
it's a thing. Well, now we get to bring in David Meerman Scott.
Yay.
I think what I'll do, ready or not, it's David Meerman Scott. You know what I'm going to do first is I'll tell the first time I had a chance to meet David Meerman Scott. David is speaking at an event that I'm at in Boston, and his book, New Rules of Marketing and PR, had come out. I was not an author at the time. That was a few years to come. David is presenting on it, and I come up to him like the biggest asshole in the whole wide world right after the speech. And I said, why in the world did you not cover Facebook? And he says, well, because he was so polite. He was so gracious. He could have just punched me in the balls and ran away, but he didn't. He was so polite. He says, look, because here's what happens. When a book gets published, there's like this several months wasteland that no one knows what happens in those months. But like, I couldn't take the book back and write, oh, by the way, Facebook showed up last week. It just doesn't work that way in books. And so I couldn't have it in the book. And that's why it doesn't cover Facebook. And I was like, oh. And that was it. And that was my first time meeting you and seeing what a consummate professional you are. And here we are again. Hi, David.
Hey, Chris. And I resisted the opportunity to reciprocate and ask you a question about trust agents and Instagram. I didn't want to do that. Well, I thought 5 years or whatever number of years later, I have this opportunity, because you had that, and the wasteland is like 9 months. You submit a manuscript, you're like, what are you doing? Are you counting the letters? Why can't this book come out tomorrow? And, there's just so many things that publisher land has to do, I guess.
I love that it even occurred to you, though. You were like, haha, the other shoe just dropped, Brogan.
I can get back to Chris Brogan and ask him about Instagram. Dude, have you ever heard of Instagram?
There's no one more petty than an author, really. We don't want to tell anyone that, but it is amazing when we go and we read our reviews and then we go chase the person through the internet to go figure out who they are and go, oh, I see.
Well, we're just professional egoists. What can you do, right? Like anyone who's like, hey, stamp my name on a book. Yeah, look at me.
That's why I only publish romance novels under a pen name, Ivory Clark.
That came out so fast that it sounds so real.
I know, right? I know.
Half of us are already on, Amazon looking for the name. David, I've lost count of books. I think it's 12, 14. I don't know.
11.
So close.
You were
So
close.
close. You marketing lessons of the Grateful Dead. You did marketing on the moon. You've taken all of your passions and made them into books. And then, of course, is it Reiko or Ryko?
It's Reiko, yeah.
It's Reiko. So you published a new one with family and write Fanocracy with Reiko Scott. You've pretty much done all the things.
Not just family, though. I mean, she was studying neuroscience, which is a big part of what Fanocracy is all about. So it's not just like, oh, hey, my kid.
It's like a lawn mowing
in the
job.
kitchen. Let's write about marketing. Like she brought a lot to the table.
She's a smarter person than me. She's currently just started this month. You heard it here first. As an emergency room resident. She's now an MD at Boston Medical Center. So she's on the front lines of COVID. I could never do that. She's way smarter than me. And she's a better writer than me. So of course, I'm going to have her be my co-author. And I love the fact that she is 27 years old and an MD and a Wall Street Journal bestselling author. That's kind of impressive for someone in their 20s. So good for her, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even anything worth talking about in my 20s.
Oh my God. I mean, like I was counting the number of Grateful Dead concerts I could be at in my 20s. And
were you modeling in Japan then?
Yes, actually, same age, 27. I was modeling in Japan. Yeah.
How many people do or don't still walk around with that fact in their head that you were a model? Are a model, but were a model?
I don't know, but it's a fun one to pull out at a cocktail party. If we ever get back to real live in-person cocktail parties, I will pull it out more than I used to. Oh, yes, I used to be a model in Japan.
And you would just like come right from work. So this wasn't like, you got all costumed up or something. It was like you were at work and they wanted an American businessman. And so it was
crazy because there were all these really pretty, like 20-year-old surfer dudes that would go over and model for underwear and stuff. And then they would call for a young business person to like drive the Toyota Corolla down the street in the TV commercial. And all of the 20-something-year-old professional models could never get that gig. And I walk in with my little Brooks Brothers suit. By the way, Brooks Brothers, RIP, sad. Walk in with my Brooks Brothers suit. And I'm like, that's the real businessman. I'm like, yeah, I really am a businessman. I don't just play one on TV. I really am one. And so I got the gigs. It was fabulous. Loved it.
It's that whole Suntory time, except that you're the real deal. You weren't Bill Murray in Lost in Translation.
And all of that was true. I was in those situations all the time where the director was telling me what to do, and I had rudimentary Japanese, and I would just sort of nod my head and do whatever I wanted.
The almost entirely female audience of my show really wishes they could see the modeling pics. I just did a cursory Google look and I couldn't find it, but
there's one. I think you gave me one, so I'll look for it.
Am I able to share my screen? I might be able to find one. If you had told me ahead of time, that would have been easier.
Well,
I'll find one.
David.
By the way, I want to make a comment about that one detail. David is a consummate professional. David is a prepared person. David and I, David worked extensively with an incredible speech coach and friend, Dr. Nick Morgan. I worked one day with him, and Nick Morgan said, "This is not for you." And
no, Chris, you're a natural. You get up there. I saw you do a presentation where you walked onto the stage and you pulled out your phone. You opened up your phone and you had like 3 notes on it. You put your phone down and riffed and did a brand new speech you had never done before. I could never do that. So you don't need a speaker coach, my friend.
But it's like, that's what he wrote in his book after I paid him. It's like, it's like a jam band difference, so I know what I want to say in my way, but when I watch you go, look at this. Look, this is like, you don't need to be praised by me. Everybody in the world praises you, but there's an elegance to how you put yourself on a stage. And what I want to talk about with regards to that.
Here's the one. I found one.
Oh,
did you find one? Oh, I just found one too.
Me. Yeah.
That's a better one. I
can
show another one too. Do I just press screen share? Is that what I do?
Yeah, I'll stop mine.
Will that work?
Mm-hmm.
Try it.
Oh my gosh, it's asking for a whole lot of tips. I don't need tips. I just want to share my screen.
Make sure you don't share anything you don't intend to, David. Which for
share
you,
screen. Oh, it's sharing my entire screen.
Or you can
That's
choose a
not good.
Chrome tab or an application. Why, you got something you don't want us to see?
Window. Well, I don't know.
Trey would.
Who
Trey would
knows?
not share his screen. That's what I'm
Are you
telling
seeing
you right now.
anything?
That's the first thing they teach you at security. They're like, don't share like everything.
Is anything coming up? Is it working? Ooh,
Yeah.
There it is. Nice.
isn't that
Like
ridiculous?
the pocket square and everything. Like, did you go to work like that?
It
or
was
did-
it was the 1980s. What can I say?
So that's a yes on the pocket square. Like, Chris, do you even know that that's a pocket square?
I mean, Scott Monty told me once that's what those were.
Oh,
I just
that's-
turned it off. You only get 10 seconds.
I'll cop to that.
that's it.
It's but no. So I have a non 90-degree segue, which is that you are a professional. You use the whole stage. You have everything planned. You do a lot of practice, and you want to deliver the absolute top shelf presentation every time you do what you do. Now the entire world shut down. All your pro speaker friends are gone. We all have to just sit around next to a webinar, and have a screen in the background and whatever. What is your show like now, and what is your presentation like now, and how is that transition? How did that happen?
It was tough because you're right. I love a stage. I love going on that big stage. So what I tried to figure out is how can I do this in such a way that I can still present and be me in a big screen. And I found that, and you guys all know this who present, when you present in a platform, Zoom or whatever it is, and you present with slides, your slides are this really, 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 really big window, and you're in this little tiny little window off in the corner, and a thumbnail, postage stamp, and it doesn't work. So I figured out this hack, which you're seeing now in my little home studio. I put my slides up over my shoulder, and it works brilliantly. And so that is a fun little hack, but it's still in this tiny little studio in a spare bedroom. I really miss the stage, but I'm encouraged because as you may know, I speak at Tony Robbins Business Mastery events around the world, and I want to share something that I think is absolutely freaking remarkable. And here it comes. This is Tony Robbins' virtual presentation room. And what this is a 50-foot round LED wall that can display thousands of Zoom inputs all at once. They had 22,000 people on Zoom this past weekend, and Tony can see them. He sees their name. He can say, put your hand up. They put their hand up, and then he can talk to any one of them, and they can zoom it out. So I'm going to be presenting on this unbelievable stage on the 20th of August, and I can't wait. So there is, Chris, thank you for asking the question. There is an opportunity to still be on a big stage and present virtually. It just requires having someone have a wonderful studio like that.
Insane.
Tony's not sure, but he believes that to be the largest Zoom call ever, 22,000, 146 countries. So, it's all about reimagining what's possible, because I realized really quickly that just doing my typical keynote and trying to, I don't know, in a sense, televise it isn't going to work. I have to figure out how to do something different. And I quickly realized that it's not a theatrical experience when you're going virtual, it's a cinematic experience. So how can you go cinematic versus theatrical? And I'm struggling with it. I'm enjoying it. It feels like I'm like new again. It's like my first time on a stage in some sense, but I'm enjoying it. And, can't say I'm not enjoying getting on an airplane either. I mean, haven't been on an airplane in however many months, right? And at first I miss the travel, I miss the excitement, but then you don't miss TSA or some screaming baby sitting next to you. So, make the best of it. The bare feet.
Yeah, the bare feet. There's always somebody that's like,
the bare feet in the seat next to you. Yeah.
I'm going to put my bare feet up on the armrest of someone else's armrest, because that is a thing that's okay to do.
I want to say really quickly hi to Corky Eden. For all I know, Carrie, when you went out to Vegas and visited my folks, you might have also met Corky.
I actually did.
See that? It's a small world after all. David, you said about the difference between theatrical and cinematic. And I think that some people heard that and some people didn't think as much about it as you said it. But what you're saying is the difference between being Lin-Manuel Miranda doing Hamilton versus, The Mandalorian. Like, it's a very different kind of product. And are you, because when you're saying this, by the way, when you talked about Tony's stage, I have this weird, it's so me. And you've seen it in person yourself, which is as everyone goes high, I have to go low. So I'm as low tech as I can be. I want to be more low tech. My slide deck looks like, a crazy monkey typed it. And
you did. I saw you do a slide deck once where it was all black and white, and it was like as old. It's like you. I think next time you're on an in-person stage, you ought to use an overhead projector. Remember those? Wouldn't that be the cool? Wouldn't that be a cool retro presentation for Chris? And you're the one to pull it off. It's like, okay, I want to get my transparencies ready now.
No, I'll be getting the transparencies ready. So it's going to happen. I'll be like,
Carrie will be the one forced to do that now that, she's helping run the show. That'll be, but and like the little circles, like the Visa markers and all that.
Yes.
And that whatever it was that sort of spirally effect thing that made it like magnify just a little more. How much fun can we have with that? No, I think you're right. So anyway, when I see the Tony stage and I see that, and you say cinematic versus theatrical, can you talk about even like a sketch about what you're thinking about when you say that?
Yeah, so I can. So in theatrical, you've got a big stage, all of the audience is in front of you. You can see and react to the audience. And you can put together a 45-minute performance where you don't really change much what's going on. A cinematic experience, if you think about it in terms of just sections of a talk, are like the different camera angles, if you will, of a cinematic experience of a film or a television show. Or if you think about a morning show, NBC or CBS or whatever morning show, that they've got the single presenter talking to the camera. They've got maybe a couple of presenters talking to one another. Then they go to the tape and they've got something as a remote. They maybe then have an interview of someone and so I try to figure out how you can put on. Chris is doing one right now.
I'm trying to emulate it
together. Try to put those things together in such a way that you're having something different every 4 to 6 minutes. Ask people to put something into the chat, ask a question or two, put up a polling question, and my default is the opposite of you. You say, we're ready to do the overhead projector and to have, a Sharpie put on a white, and there's my slide, guys. I kind of like, what are the buttons that I can push? What are the features that I can use? What if I dig really deep into this platform, can I find a tool that no other speaker will use? And maybe I can utilize that. That tends to be my style.
Not to get all like serious this early in the day, but I think as a female speaker, I would be held to a very different standard. I can't roll up on stage in a crumpled, smelly t-shirt and write on my hand and be like, make it look like I just made this up. But obviously I didn't. Even if it looks like that, I'm going to get comments in the feedback.
Think? Really?
I know.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I know. Because even
not being a woman, I wouldn't know that, but
yeah, if you slip just a little off the completely polished and prepared thing, you will get comments about not being prepared or organized. It's like,
wow.
Great.
Related to women and related to Reiko, you just made me think of something with Reiko. It is hard to do a 2-person presentation. Now that is tamped down a little by how much you love your child, how much you want her to shine and all that sort of thing. But it is not the same thing to present with another human entity there with your timing and all that. How did that go for you? You're going to say great, I know, but
well, we struggled with it. And so what we defaulted to something that arguably was lazy. We've presented a couple of times in person, and the book came out in January, so we didn't have very many opportunities to present in person. And she's a full-time doctor, so there's not very many opportunities for her to be able to have a window that we can do it in Boston. But we did present at Inbound, and it was super fun, live stage, in-person stage. And what we chose to do was I did my thing. for like 20 minutes. And then I invited her up, and then we just did a back and forth, like a fireside chat. We didn't call it that, but just a little chat back and forth. I asked her a couple of questions. She asked me a couple of questions. 10 minutes. Everyone clapped because she's wonderful, and she left. And then we've recreated that actually a little bit with what we're doing virtually. We're presenting at an event, I believe it's next week, for impact branding and design. And we're doing a back and forth sort of, I ask her some questions, she asks me some questions. So it feels like, for us at least, when that second person is part of the conversation, that it no longer is my tendency to put together a performance. I will now do my performance. It can't be a performance. It needs to be a conversation. It needs to be more like what we're doing right now than all the bits that are planned out. And okay, now I'm in bit number 46B, and I'm going to do this for 13 seconds, and then I change, and which is my normal style, which is try to make it really so that I know what's happening every moment.
I want to highlight her that again, because when you think David's saying that to sort of be funny, that's how it works. He knows how many seconds because he's tried it that many times. He knows how many seconds.
Yes,
and I don't know
Chris.
if I'm not sure if I shared this with you, Chris, but I amuse myself by in an in-person event. I go to the production table and I said, now, and I know this is just a thing, right? And I said, now I forget, how much time do I have? And they're like, what? You forgot how much? You have 60 minutes. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can't remember. Sometimes I forget these things. Don't worry, I won't go much over. And then, and then I know when I get, and they have those big red clocks typically. We've all professional speakers have seen these big old red clocks that audience can't see. And I try my best to do 60:00. That's when I say, the last word is out of my mouth. And I do it to amuse myself. And about 50% of the time, the production table, I can see them go. Because they're like, this guy's going to go 20 minutes over. He doesn't even know how much time he has. And I go sick. And I, a couple of times I went 60 and 1 second or 59:58, something like that. But it's so much fun. And then the other half of the time, they don't even realize what I've done. And it pisses me off, to be honest with you, because there's like 1,000 people in the audience who don't know what's going on. And I want that production table to like, oh, that's
you want credit.
Yeah, I want that private, and no, it doesn't get out publicly. I want that private credit that I just hit 60 seconds on the nose.
You have it totally together. You look like you have it together. Chris looks like he has nothing together, but he absolutely does.
But Chris gets better ratings than me. So, wow. Chris will be like, it clearly has everything together, but his style is like, this is casual. I'm here talking to my buddies, and there's 3,000 buddies in the audience, but here I am talking to my buddies, and my style is, this is important. This is present. And they both kind of work in their way. If I presented your way and you presented my way, I don't know that either of us could pull it off. Oh my gosh.
That is one Freaky Friday I do not want to be part of or see. Carrie, I want to circle back to you. Your comment, and it was kind of humorous that I talked over it because that would be extra humorous for women in speaking.
For sure.
Women get treated different as speakers. Why can there not be that?
Why?
I know David wanted to hear it too.
Why?
Why does that happen? Why is it that
So I learned this practicing law long before I ever took the stage as a professional speaker. I learned this practicing law. To persuade is a very different thing than to be respected. And so you kind of have to choose between them as a woman, right? If I was going to stand up before a jury or even just a judge, I had to choose what I was going to wear. I had to choose how I was going to say. I was more persuasive if I said, well, gosh, I don't know. It seems to me like if you lived in that house 15 years, you would have at some point gone into the basement. Like, you have to phrase things a little more tentatively than saying, what do you mean you never went in the basement? You're a liar. Like, your whole approach is very different if you want to persuade. And I want to persuade because I want to win. So that plays into it. And then, what you wear, it's like, you can't be school marmish, but you can't be like super short skirt. It's this fine balance. And so the same thing happened when I would present. Like, you can't roll up there in your like rumpled, smelly jeans and make a good impression, because people don't just listen to what you say as a woman. They look at you first. And if they like what they see, they'll give it a listen. And then you have to engineer your whole talk to be persuasive in a whole different way. Or at least I have in my experience. And like I said, I like to win, so I will do what it takes. So I'm not trying to I wasn't trying to like change the dynamic, change the world. I was like, I'm here to win. I'm not going to make waves for my client. I'm just going to, operate within these admittedly archaic and frustrating realities.
Do you think that the same thing would be true for non-white men? Do you think that it's a women thing? Do you think it's a woman thing, or do you think it's a non-white male thing? So
it entirely depends on who you're trying to persuade. If that mix of jury members is black and white and male and female, then you're dealing with a pretty volatile mix. Like, you're going to have to walk a lot of a very fine line to please a lot of people. But it's definitely different. So like a black male attorney coming to a jury would have to present very differently, more polished, more like the David Meerman Scott approach, less like the Chris approach, because he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion. That he is even though he has the same education I do.
Look who I brought.
Oh, yay, Dre.
Dre, you are now back in because you're representing Latinx all of a sudden. So, not the same, because as our culture goes, your melanin count basically decides your success in life.
Now, Dre, when you wear a short skirt, do people listen more or less?
That's what I want to hear.
Oh no,
he's muted.
Did you do that on purpose? Did you do that to him on purpose?
I wish I did, but he's smarter than me.
It really depends how high my high heels are that day on stage.
That's fair. If you go with the espadrilles, it could be a little shorter.
Yeah, true.
Espadrilles. You just said words that we don't know, so
just because you're male, but yeah.
Yeah.
So but how about culottes? I want to see Chris wear culottes on stage.
Culottes. I think I am wearing culottes. My shorts are almost capri level. They're like kind of insane clown posse length, so they're not. Or suicidal tendencies, I guess, for Dre. Mike Muir in the band.
This is one thing that Chris does that I love. He'll be like, "Carrie, you're a girl. Why is it like? Why do they do this?" I don't know.
Trey, you're Latino.
Yeah.
But no, it's a really important point. And as you saw, David and I both had the same sort of face. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, we have to think about this for a minute.
Because I didn't think about it.
No, I didn't either. But I can't think of a single sloppy female presenter at all that emulates who Chris Brogan acts like on stage. Zero. But that made me think, oh God, like you're
isn't
totally
this
right.
a thing beyond just professional speaking? My oldest daughter's 21. In fact, she just left to the military boot camp this last week. So I've seen that side of the world as a 12-year veteran, and I know the impacts and things she's going to deal with there as a female. She's dealt with it even just working here locally, and having to maybe structure her direction and strategic approach to things because she's impacted differently than even I am as a white Latino man, right? It's a very different environment for her. So it extends well beyond speaking, but I can certainly appreciate what you've dealt with there, Carrie. I think it's a real thing.
Well, I think unlike some people take it very much to heart and get emotionally they kind of down about it. I think because I was a lawyer, I was compartmentalizing a lot of horrific stuff like the whole time. So to me, it was just like one more thing. But I observe it now in others. So if you ever, next time you're watching, when we get back to seeing people speak on stage again, just watch. I mean, you're not going to see some like slovenly looking woman roll in like she just got out of bed and was like, oh, is that today? Not ever.
I've never not done that. Dre, did she go to Navy or did she make a mistake?
The world's finest Navy, my friend.
Good.
Yeah, so she's about halfway through her bachelor's, heading the nursing route. She's a certified nurse's assistant in California, and she was picked up to go hospital corpsman in the Navy, and then so she's going to continue that track there of healthcare. I'm super excited for her. I wasn't super thrilled, but I did get a giggle when we got a call from her Friday when they checked her in. They are doing like a 2-week quarantine thing. But she calls us and goes, hey, Mom, Dad, I made it. And then in the background, you hear, you got 45 lyrics on the phone, and I go, oh no, she's scared. Welcome to the Navy. So I'm excited for her, and I can't wait to see her in uniform, and I just can't wait to hear her stories and her perspective on how it went.
Carol over here in the comments mentioned that girl dads have a greater sensitivity to what women face. Do you have lots of girls? So do you have more sensitivity?
Well, I cry a lot. So there's that. I think I do approach things a little bit differently than say a boy dad. They deal with things differently, right? In the sense of like their experiences out in public or in the things that they're excited about, they're dealing with them differently. And I think it's important for us to grasp that and help them understand that, no, you continue with the things that you love and you're passionate about. You're going to deal with this stuff and it's not right, but we have to find ways to continue to drive forward and reach our goals. And I think being attached to that sensitivity is super important in driving that direction with them. So,
David, is that how you were with Reiko?
It's really as I was hearing you chat there, it's really interesting because have raised not only a girl who is now a woman in my house, but she's also half Japanese, and my wife is Japanese. So I'm looking at her situation and doing my best to learn from it as not only a woman, but as she self-defines, a woman of color. And I asked her about med school and about now being a doctor. I actually think it was this last weekend. And she said, absolutely no question that when an older male doctor, 50s, 60s doctor is talking to a group of younger doctors, they absolutely key off the white men. Even though Reiko went through the same education system, even though Reiko is an MD, even though Reiko is also an emergency resident at the same hospital, she told us that she has to be double extra put together, know the answer to the question, confident of what she will do next, because she's not only a woman, but she's a half Asian woman. And I find that fascinating to have been able to, she's 27 now, go through all of the different aspects of that in her life, as well as my wife, who's we've been together now 30 years. At Whole Foods a couple of days ago, she was screamed at because it was her fault because of the Wuhan flu. And I'm like, right. I don't know what that feels like to be an Asian woman who's discriminated against because some Yahoo believes that it's your fault that there's a pandemic. It's unbelievable. And so, yes, I think I do have a bit more sensitivity as a result. But I need more. I need to really understand, which is why I was a bit surprised, Carrie, when you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to it. Don't feel bad for me. I'm okay, but it's just something I've noticed. Yeah. So I don't know if you have experienced anything like that, Dre, in particular. Like, do you find that the presumption of preparedness or your qualifications ever come into question just by virtue of your backgrounds, or no?
Not so much on the Latino side, because most people don't see me as Latino. They see me as just a white male,
white guy with a weird accent.
Until they start speaking badly in Spanish about me, and I'm able to answer back, being that was my first language, right? That's pretty interesting. But I do get that because I didn't go the traditional path of, hey, bachelor's, MBA, et cetera, in business. That was kind of an after thing because I wanted to pursue that. I went the military route. So it's like, hey, he's not maybe as capable. He's maybe not as prepared. He doesn't have all the tooling and that traditional background to be here and to be part of this. So that does cause, some imposter syndrome and some of those insecurities along the way. But you have to continue to drive and be confident and deal with a lot of those similar emotions and situations, because you're looked at and perceived differently because you didn't do it the traditional way.
I was first in my law school class. I still feel like I should put it on a t-shirt or something sometimes when I have to go mingle places like of 300 people. So I'm like, look,
you
guys,
should put that on the little orange tag that's below you right now.
Numero uno. Pass, because then I will be a braggy bitch.
Ah,
Another line women have. If you talk too much
yeah.
about your accomplishments as a woman, they're like, oh boy, here we go. You know?
There we go.
And you're
Here
bossy
we
if you exhibit leadership qualities, and
I'm fine with being bossy. I'm all right with it. But, you
Mm.
know, like I said, I've been in a room full of like 60-year-old white guys, and you've got to get something done. And that's very much like where you have to make jokes. It's not unlike probably Queen Elizabeth face stuff, like where she would just interject with humor and be very self-deprecating. Because like, look, I can make a thing of this, or I can get the job done. And you just got to get the job done.
Yeah.
So
from what I know of her, she used to use her humor like a dagger a lot of times, though, as well.
well, sure, but recreationally, not
she just sort of fling a knife, but it worked.
Sure. I toss grenades.
Yes. As this wrap is winding down, it's plain to see I forgot my hat. The next thought I wanted to give her, the last thought, to talk about is, this is the backpack. We're putting stuff in people's backpacks so that they can move forward. We're all here for the same thing, which is, now what do we figure out? What's important to think about in the coming months so that we can be our best us, and not best, but even an effective us. So Dre and David, and Carrie, if you want, what do you want to stick in the backpack today? What's something people need to take with them?
Go ahead, Dre.
Well, I think it's a matter of execution. A lot of people are pretty nervous to kind of take that next step into whatever it is. And we've got a lot of time sitting on our hands, and that idle time and those amazing thoughts are a lot more amazing for more people that are dealing with the same thing if you go ahead and execute. It's okay to get it wrong the first time, the second time, even the third time, but continue forward. And you'd be surprised how many people you end up helping out by just taking that plunge. So execute.
I'll tell you what I think people should take from you, David, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. You've made a career of combining your passions with your professional pursuits, like marketing. So you wrote books about marketing, with the Grateful Dead as like your metaphor through, or marketing the moon, Fanocracy. You pair your passion with your work to get further.
Thank you. And I thank you for that, Carrie. And yeah, we've talked about that a few times. And that's actually what I was going to suggest that people put in their backpack is I've seen that when you do work that you're passionate about, passion is infectious and people are gravitated to you. And so, oh my gosh, I have to go to work today doesn't work as well as I can't wait to get up and do my thing today because I get to whatever it is you do. That passion will carry you forward. And so I've found that to be the most important thing in my backpack. And hopefully for anyone listening in, that passion is infectious. And when you're passionate, people want to be around you. They want to do business with you.
I like it. Leslie says, by the way, I think a creative explosion is ahead. Chris and I had a conversation about that, and I was appreciating his positive attitude towards this chaos when I was struggling. I think that's the deal. And, one of the first ever F-14 combat pilots, Navy. Yes, I get to do this. Carrie Lorenz says that.
Nice.
So just so you know.
Nice.
Mindset is everything. Nancy says, Carrie, I didn't know you were a lawyer. I've worked in legal marketing since 97. So now you have that in common with Nancy Merland. That's all said. And Chip Griffin, whose birthday it is tomorrow, Chip Griffin, he says a lot of opportunity lies ahead. So I think we all feel good enough about everything. So you know what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to push this button just like that.